We dance for peace.
Ashriel, thank you for joining us. First of all, as I said, there are different groups of people who use that phrase, Black Hebrew, Black Israelite. What is your reaction when you see this group in Brooklyn marching in the streets and chanting, "We are the real Jews"? What is your reaction to that?
Let me first of all say good evening to you, good evening to your listening and viewing audience, and shalom from Israel. You see, there's a problem with the idea of viewing us as Black Hebrew Israelites, because all that says is that there is a distinction or separation between Hebrew Israelites or Judeans or Jews generally. If there was no separation, then there would be no need to say Black Hebrew Israelites or Black Jews or anything like that. But you would be able to simply say, we're all Hebrews, we're all Jews, we're all Judeans, we're all part of the house of Israel. And so my reaction to that is that simply we need to, first of all, focus on the reason why we have to have these different connotations to mean the same thing, and who has created this separation that causes us to now be viewed as Black Hebrew Israelites. So I never hear anyone says these are the white Jews, or these are the white Israelites, or these are the white Judeans. We just simply say these are the Jews, these are Hebrew Israelites, and these are Judeans. But why, when referring to us, do they have to add the prefix of Black to that name? That's something that's more interesting to me, and that's what I would like to actually hear.
Well, first of all, that is, from what we understand, that was a terminology originally used by members of the group itself. And
excuse me, let me correct you. We've never used that terminology. And when we arrived to Israel in 1968, the first group of us, we said that we are Hebrew Israelites returning back to our original homeland, and we are descendants of the ancient Hebrew Israelites. Abraham was a Hebrew. Jacob and all of his 12 tribes were Israelites. So we're descendants of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And so we've never referred to ourselves as such.
The question,
Israel.
I understand, Ashriel. I understand. So the question I would say other Jews might have, a Jew like myself, am I also a descendant of those original Hebrew Israelite tribes?
We've never said no one else wasn't. We've always said that we know who we are, and we're returning back to the land to reconnect with all of the house of Israel, our brothers and sisters, wherever they may come back from the world. We've always had the issue here. We have been the ones who've been deported and who've been demeaned, and we've been the one who've been kind of casted aside. So I don't think that question should actually come to us. We should be asking the opposite. Why have the Hebrew Israelites never been included?
That's a legitimate question. I don't have an answer, but let me ask you, there are those in the community, and I'm not saying in Israel, but we see the footage of them there in Brooklyn chanting, "We are the real Jews." So what is your message to those people who have been chanting that in Brooklyn as well?
I have a general message, not to only those people, but to the people here as well, to the people who say that we are usurpers of this identity, and we're not Hebrews, and we have no connection to the house of Israel and to the house of Jacob. My message is one. We all are one people, whether there were people who converted or there were people who were from the direct lineage, direct descendants. We're all one people, and we're all coming under one umbrella to accept the identity of our ancient patriarchs. And so once we could be able to all agree that there's foundational understanding and traditions and morals and responsibilities for being from the house of Israel, then we could all be able to accept everyone regardless to your skin color.
Ashriel, I understand your point. Let me ask you, is your community in direct contact with those communities still in the United States? Like, for example, the one in Brooklyn that we see in the footage that we've just been showing?
We're in contact with everybody in order to bring a message of healing. We have 54 years of experience in Israel, living amongst the Israeli society given of ourselves to Israel in order to build and to sustain the state. We have 100% enlistment into the military. We represented Israel fighting against the BDS and fighting against all of the delegitimizing of Israel. So we are the ones that could actually bring the 54 years of experience that we have in order to be able to gather the whole house of Israel and make sure that we all could be able to sit at the table as one and to get over our differences, to overcome the differences, and to see what do we agree on and to work from there in order to heal the whole house of Israel.
Right. But again, we're just going at, is this a message you say to those of your brethren who are still in the United States? For example, those in Brooklyn?
Absolutely. We say it to everyone.
All right, I understand. Well, certainly this is a complex subject, and Ashriel Moore of the, I'll say, Hebrew Israelite community in Dimona, thank you for...
I found myself pondering quite often as to why we were in the predicament that we were in. Constantly as a child, I would pose the question to my mother, to my father, what is the cause of us being in this situation? Does it have an end? Is there an escape?
I had believed in the American dream that really became an American nightmare because my mother always told me to get a good education. When I had a Bachelor's of Science degree in accounting and business administration, and I was working in the industrial complex in America, but I was very, very unhappy because I saw African Americans really being treated as third-class citizens.
I remember once I went to Baltimore, Maryland as a child, about 12 years old. In fact, that's the year I met Benjamin. And in Baltimore at that time, they had separate days for swimming in the swimming pools. They had separate water faucets, everything. I mean, this is when I was 12 years old.
My father used to say that we are descendants of the biblical Israelites and that we were brought into America as a part of our punishment for violating the laws and commandments of the Creator. I would hear the elders say that at the end of this captivity, that we will be delivered out of America and we would be brought back into the promised land.
To understand this idea of Israel being a home to African Americans, we have to go back, all the way back to Roman times, when the Roman armies attacked Israel and the Hebrew people fled to the various parts of Africa. Over the years, they made their way to West Africa, namely Ghana and Nigeria, where they were sold off as slaves and shipped to America. Hence the fact that African Americans can trace their lineage back to the biblical Hebrews. They also do not consider Israel as part of the Middle East. They believe Israel is in fact Northeast Africa.
In Genesis 15, God makes a deal with Abraham for being obedient to leave the Ur of the Chaldeans and come into the heart of Africa. The way he gives it by rivers. And he says the great river and the small river and the Euphrates and the Tigris. Well, the small river is the Blue Nile. It begins in a place called Jinja, Uganda. And the Tigris and Euphrates, last tributary, ends in Baghdad, Iraq. So if you just take that landmass, that would be the land of Israel.
My grandmother used to always say that we had to go back to Canaan's land. That's what they call it. They didn't call it Israel or Palestine. They would always say Canaan's land. The people from the South would sing the songs and pass on the stories about the Israelites and the Jordan River and go down Moses, and I always wonder why we sang all those songs.
While under days of heavy meditation, Ben Carter received a vision. The year was 1966.
One evening as I laid there on my bed, and the angel Gabriel came to bring the word of God that it was time to start the journey back to the promised land and to establish the long-awaited kingdom of God. And the year of the Exodus would be 1967. I really felt that the angel had the wrong address. If there was any way that I could have summoned the angel back for more details, to get some assurances, that this was in fact from the Creator, I would have done so. But it was not to be. I did not immediately go forth to share the vision with anyone. I was in tears. I didn't want to mislead my people. After 3 weeks, I shared the vision with the members of the ObeYah Israel Hebrew Culture Center.
Ben-Ami convinced a large portion of the African Hebrew community to follow him to Israel. They were to pilgrimage to Liberia first and then to Israel to live as African Hebrews in their homeland.
When time come to go, I just put my house up for sale. I sold my house, I sold my cars, and then we moved.
I left behind family, I left behind friends, I left behind jobs, a car, a motorcycle. I didn't even sell them, I just left them. The family thought I'd gone crazy. The family thought I'd been brainwashed. My father actually told me at the time, he said, you read yourself into it, read yourself out.
They arrived in the jungles of Liberia with almost nothing but the clothes on their backs and set up camp for 2 years. It must be so overwhelming, though, to arrive in this complete...
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know anybody. In fact, the only thing I knew about Africa at that time was that what I saw in Tarzan and what I saw in the movies, so I'm expecting all of these things, that I saw in the movies, yeah.
We had some friends that had helped us purchase the land. They were Garveyites, and they let us settle on their land until our land was cleared by some of the indigenous brothers. And then we moved a few months later to our land. We pitched tents.
And the first year we were there, we didn't even have thatched roofs. And so you imagine when the monsoon rains came, we were living in water, and the water was just drenched.
Did people get sick?
Whoa, did we have sickness? We had every kind of sickness you think. We got hepatitis, we had malaria, we had jaundice, we had running sores. Our children came malnutrition, big stomachs, and all kinds of things. Then running sores from like they was getting infected,
Did you ever feel that moments of faith loss?
Not necessarily faith lost, but faith tried, absolutely.
So remember now, it was about almost 400 of us, and only about 112 or something came to Israel. So it's quite a few that turned around. They couldn't take it.
My first wife, in 1975, went back to America.
She didn't want to stay?
She didn't want to stay.
Why?
Well, everybody don't necessarily agree or believe the same thing that you believe. If she run out of faith, or if she run out of whatever it is that was causing her to stay, she ran out and she just wouldn't, she wanted to go back. And so nobody was forcing her to stay, so she went back.
How did you make it into Israel? How did you even afford the air tickets?
Well, we couldn't. During the course of our sojourn there, approximately 2.5 years, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. C. He invested in some soft-serve ice cream machines for us to open up a couple of small businesses in Monrovia. And when it was time for us to leave, we sold both of the restaurants, and we used our divine intelligence in some other ways also in order to get the tickets.
So after 2 years of surviving in Liberia, Ben-Ami Ben Israel kept his promise and successfully led his people back to the Holy Land of Israel.
On our first arrival in 1969 in the land of Israel, we were a novelty to the people here in Israel. They had no idea. They had never seen black people before.
Dimona, the spiritual capital of the world. Raise a peace and happiness for every little boy.
The community is registered as a Agudah Shetufit, which is a cooperative, which means that all the earnings of the community are put together. It's a kibbutz eroni, but it's a little different. You know, most kibbutzim, they have their own land area and they're gated and closed in, and it's a city of itself. So in similar way, we have everything that we need here to support ourselves.
Our economic system is called all things in common. And it's actually a concept that's biblically based. You put into the pot according to your ability, take out according to need. We have a common saying that leaders of the future will have to prepare the people for living with less. Less money, less transportation, or less fuel, all of those things. More is not always better.
Let us all at this time bow our heads, humble our spirits for an opening prayer. Odul Yahweh,
The priesthood are the spiritual leaders of the African Hebrew people. They are responsible for the instruction of the rules that govern the community, as well as guiding the people through practical life experiences, like circumcision, marriage, and birth.
We observe the instructions of Genesis, which state that man would consume from the fruits of the trees and the herbs of the field that bear seed, and this would be for him as food.
We find that it is written that the Creator created us from the dust of the earth, from the soil. All of the minerals in the soil are in your body, and you have to continue to resupply them. The Creator, knowing that we could not go out and take these minerals out of the earth and consume them and ingest and digest them, but in His infinite wisdom, He caused plants to spring forth from the same soil from which we were created, and He instructed us to consume the plants.
The Genesis instruction was to preserve the Adamic body, the body that was created in its perfection.
We don't eat any animal products because we actually believe that if you have a plant-based diet, you can actually regenerate the cells in this body. Anytime you have a scratch, everything heals.
I'm one of those people who never really stops to eat. I literally live on takeaways and Coke. So to suddenly only be getting melons, salads, and water nearly killed me. I was cranky, tired, and obsessed with getting fed. But after looking around me, I felt ashamed for what I put my body through. Everybody in this community is so conscious of the connection between the body, the mind, and the soul, and educated on the science of food, which shows, especially in their skin. How old are you?
I'm 52.
I can't believe it.
Thank you.
Your skin is like amazing.
Well, that's our good life, good diet. Again, the community is very health conscious, is very health literate. I'm sure if you're walking around, you'll find that even the youngest of the children, if you tell them, oh, I have a cold, I have a tummy ache, I have a headache or whatever, they'll be able to give you a cure. Each family looks out for each other. It's like one big family here. I'm sure you'll see that. Everyone knows everyone, and we're able to help and assist each other. It's the greatest experience that I've ever had in my life.
This is the community's agricultural project, and we're on the outskirts of Dimona. I want to introduce you to Taryn.
Taryn?
Taryn out of South Africa.
So all the food that I've been eating in the community, is that all from here?
Some of it is here because realistically our fields are not big enough. At least the field that we're presently cultivating is not big enough to provide produce to our community of over 2,500 people. But I'd like to take you on a tour of what we are doing here. Welcome to what we call our Community Bioorganic Agricultural Demonstration Farm and Training Center. We refer to it as divine agriculture. I say what divine simply means to be pleasing unto Yah. We grow our food, our produce, without the use of chemical fertilizers, insecticides, those things that destroy life. When we say we don't use chemical fertilizers, so people say, well, how do you grow your food? How do you cause it to yield? We make compost. Over here we have vine crops. These are young grapevines, okay, and they're just starting to produce grapes. These particular grapes, these are wine grapes, Merlot wine grapes. They produce a very high quality tasting wine. The homemade wine is made from natural fruits, all right, and it's fermented naturally. No additives, no preservatives utilized in making the wine. You haven't tasted our natural wines? Oh, I have to Saramati answer. Show you. My wives make wine, right? And we use the fruits that are in season. We just left the strawberry season, so strawberry wine is out now.
Oh, wow.
Grape wine is out now. Plum wine, ginger wine. All types of varieties of wine are made in our community.
And you have honey as well?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. We have a professional beekeeper in our community who's worked with bees for over 40 years. All of our honey produced from the flowers that come from the crops and the trees are in the surrounding environment. So all of the nectar that's collected are from wildflowers. Our honey is what is called wildflower honey. And from each harvest, we may get up to 400 kilos of honey, which is a lot of honey.
It is a rule in the community that every adult exercises to the point of sweating at least 3 times a week.
For many of us, we can go by ourselves and run in the mountains. We have that own self-internal discipline. But for others, they need a buddy. They need a class. They need something structured. And again, that's the environment that's created here, where we can say, when's the last time you went running? You look like you gained a few pounds.
At the age of 73, Ben-Ami still runs 6 kilometers every day. And most days, he waits until the midday heat so that he can get maximum output from his exercise.
He gets out twice a week. He runs a 6-kilometer trail out in the mountain. And it could be raining and cold, but he's going to still get out there at that particular time. He'll put on a wetsuit and he'll go running. So he doesn't allow anything to deter him from getting in his exercise.
It's a drug-free community. We don't do drugs.
We dance for peace. We dance for Ben-Ami. We dance for peace. And we dance for all those who wish for a better world. And what we would like to do now is keep it the tradition. We would like to bring the first presentation out for 2016. Please, are you ready?
Y'all shall bless the out of Zion. Praise God Jehovah in the day. Rahim Hasidim.
Soul and might is how we go fight, shine for the Father's light. I know disrespect to all of the rest, but this what we got to do. We won't let go. I got